class. It is Miss Plum, and this is the first lesson that we're going to do on the computer together. Now, if you were in class on the day we did this, we did it all together, but this is just in case you missed class that day or you want a review of what we did. So, to get us started, we need a few things. You need the Imperialism worksheet, and it looks like this right here. This right here. You also need a pen or pencil, anything you can write with, and then one marker. It doesn't have to be a marker. It can be a colored pencil or something. It just needs to have a color, any color that you want. Okay, so make sure you have those three things. So the worksheet, something to write with, and then a color. Okay, now, before we actually start doing the worksheet together, I want you to just get in your head for a second. Okay, think about these questions. I'm going to post 4 questions, and I want you just to think, are they true or false? Okay? Just think about it. First one, Alaska and Hawaii are U.S. territories. True? False? I don't know. You need a passport to visit Puerto Rico. True or false? You as a U.S. citizen. That's what that means. Almost all people of the Philippines speak fluent English. Fluent means very well, almost perfectly. Number 4, Hawaii has a queen. Okay, so let's see how you did. Number 1, Alaska and Hawaii are U.S. territories. Dun dun dun, drum roll. False. Now, if you are like most people that were in class on the day we did this, you put true. U.S. territory and a U.S. state. While Alaska and Hawaii are U.S. states, they are not territories. Our territories are Puerto Rico, Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoan Islands. They are not, those places that I just listed are not states. Okay, so Alaska and Hawaii are U.S. states. Number 2, you need a passport to visit Puerto Rico. Most people in class on the day we did this said true. However, it is false. If you are indeed a U.S. citizen, do not need a passport to visit Puerto Rico. Because, as I said before, territory. Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can travel within the country and our territories without a passport. Now, if you are a citizen of Mexico or a citizen of Canada, you would indeed need a passport to visit Puerto Rico. Okay, the third one. Almost all people of the Philippines speak fluent English. If in class, most people said this was false. However, the answer is true. Now, if you notice, India and the Philippines have a lot of companies where you can call in, say you have issues with your phone or your computer or something like that, and you need to call someone. A lot of those call centers are based in the Philippines and India, and because they do speak English in both of those places. Now you may say, Ms. Plum, the Philippines is not it's not America, it's not our country. However, back in the early 1900s, we put our army in the Philippines, and we established some rule over them for a few decades. So, with that said, a lot of the people started to speak English because we were there. In India, most Indians speak English fluently because for hundreds of years, the British had colonized India. It wasn't until 1847 until India got their independence from Great Britain. And the last one, number 4, Hawaii has a queen. This is false. They do not have a queen. They are a U.S. state now. However, back up until 1899, they did have a queen. Her name was Queen, you ready for it? Queen Liliuokalani. Liliuokalani. She was a powerful woman, and we being American planters, they planted pineapple and sugar, and there's some missionaries as well. They formed a coup and overthrew her. If you've heard of Sanford Dole, or if you know orange juice, the Dole Orange Juice Company or the Dole Pineapple Company, that is named after Sanford Dole, who in the 1890s led the overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani in Hawaii. He had a lot of pineapple plantations there, and she would not allow them to do some things that they wanted to do, the planters, and so they said, there are enough of us here, we should be able to have a say, we're going to overthrow the government and put in our own. Okay, so now that your brain is flowing a little bit about Hawaii and Alaska and Puerto Rico, we're going to dive into the worksheet. So, get this worksheet out. And what I want you to do is, right in this box that the red arrow is pointing to, just this little box, not this big part down here. You're going to draw there in a few minutes, but just keep your writing in this little part right here. I want you to write out this definition for imperialism. When one nation extends their power or control over other nations by taking them over. Write all of that underlined stuff in this box. Then I want you to think about the word imperialism right here. What word do you see in there when you say it out loud, imperialism? What words do you hear that are buried in that word? I hear emperor, empire. What is an empire? What is an emperor? An emperor rules over a large empire. Okay? Keyword being large. So imperialism is basically when one nation, and today for this lesson it's going to be the case of America, so you can say when America extended their power or control over other countries by taking them over. So we took over the Philippines, we took over Hawaii, we took over Guam. We extended our power. We made our empire, our American empire, larger. So before you move on, make sure this is written right here. Okay, moving on. Let's look at this box down here. Okay, we're going to do a little drawing game, and this game is going to have 12 steps, and I'm going to model for you what you should do. But at this point, you're going to need your marker for step 3, I do believe. Step 3 and after that. So, step 1, draw the outline of an imaginary country in the middle of your notebook paper. This. Leave some blank space because you're going to need it later. Alright, draw your imaginary country. Here is mine. Make it big make it bigger because you're going to have to draw other countries. You're going to have to draw other countries around it. So kind of center it. Make sure it's large. It can look however you want it to look. It doesn't have to look like this. It can be a heart if you're feeling extremely romantic today. It can be a sad face if you're feeling sad. I don't care what it looks like. Okay, let's keep going. You have the outline of your imaginary country. Step 2. Name your imaginary country and write it inside the country. Okay, my name is Plumland. You can call your country whatever you want to call it. You can call it Kisses. You can call it Coca-Cola. I don't care. Anything that you want to call it, you can. Okay? Move it on. Step 3. Draw a flag inside your country and choose one color of marker to color in your flag with. Now, don't make this too complicated. It can be really simple. You're going to draw it inside, and it can just be a square with a little stem attached to it. And you're going to choose one color of marker to color in the flag. I chose green, so I have to stick with green for the rest of the steps. So whatever, if you choose pink, you stick with pink. If you choose orange, you stick with orange the rest of the time. Okay? Okay, moving on to step 4. Now draw a different, smaller country someplace else on your paper. Smaller country. Here is mine. Looks like a weird triangle. Okay, that's all you're going to do. Draw a different, smaller country. Now, why do you think it's smaller? Think about imperialism. This is going to be the main country we're dealing with. The other ones are all going to be smaller. Okay, moving on. Okay, step 5. This country has lots of pineapples that grow here. Draw a pineapple someplace on this country. Now, you might say, I don't know how to draw a pineapple, Miss Plum. Well, I'm not a good artist either. I drew this, though. It just has a small base, and then I crisscrossed it, and then it has a funny looking on top. Now, if you want to color in your pineapple, or this is yellow and this is green, that's fine, but you don't have to. Just think of SpongeBob's house. He lived in a pineapple under the sea. Okay. Now, before we move on, I want you to think, what does this pineapple represent? What place? And if you said Hawaii, you are correct. So this is the reason that we wanted Hawaii. We wanted their pineapples. Okay. Step 6. The first country you drew wants to expand its pineapple business, so they take over the second country. To show this, use the color of the flag of the first country to color in the entire second country. Alright, so get your marker, get whatever color you have. I got green. I'm going to color in my second country. You can color over the pineapple if you want to, but you don't have to. This just shows that this country, our bigger country, has now taken over our country here because we want to use their pineapple. So if you think back to history, we took over Hawaii and we used their pineapple plantations for our benefit. Step 7. Draw a third country someplace else on your paper. Make sure this country has a harbor like the picture, which I'm going to draw for you. Here's my country. Now, the harbor part, so a harbor, if you think about it, a harbor is a place that is on a coastline, and it's where ships can dock. It's like a U-shaped area. Okay, so this right here that I'm highlighting, that is my harbor. So if you have your ships in here, they're protected from the ocean waves and currents and the storms and stuff that happen out here in the ocean. They're protected inside this harbor. Okay, so when you draw your country, make sure it has this little curve where you can draw something in here in a second. Okay, step 8. The first country decides it needs to take over the third country because it wants to build a military base with ships at this harbor. To show this, use the color of the flag of the first country to color in the entire third country. Okay? Now, before we move on, look at the reason this is happening. Follow the laser. It says it needs to take over because it wants to build a military base with ships at the harbor. Why would you need to build... In the case of Hawaii, we put ships at what would become known as Pearl Harbor, which would be bombed later. We put ships there because Hawaii is about halfway in between America and China, and we needed to get to China, and you can't get all the way to China with on, one tank of gas. If you're thinking like a car, you have to stop at gas stations if you're going on a long trip. Just like if you are going on a long trip in a ship, you have to have rest stops as well. And Hawaii is going to be our rest stop. Hawaii is where we're going to have our military ships here in the future. Okay, step 9. You're going to draw 3 little ships inside this harbor of our third country to show the military base the first country built. The ships, keep it simple. It's just this little bottom part, whoop, whoop, a little swoop, and then a stick with a like a little triangle for a flag. Just draw 3 of those. And guys, we have military bases all around the world. We have them in many, many countries. Germany, Korea, Kuwait. The list goes on and on and on where our military bases are. And you might know people that have worked overseas, and this is the kind of environment that was there before they got there. But we took over an area, maybe not in a violent way, but we requested if we could use their space for our military. So think about that next time you talk to people who work in the military. Okay, step 10. You're going to finally draw a 4th country someplace else on your paper. Here's mine. My 4th country. Now, what do you think we're going to do with it? If you notice a pattern, boom, boom, green, green, green. Okay, the first country decides it needs to take over this 4th country to spread principles of, catch this, freedom, democracy, and Christianity to the ignorant natives on this island. To show this, use the color of the flag of the first country to color in the entire 4th country. So, color of the flag of the first country is green. For me, color of this entire 4th country is going to be green as well. Now, before I move on, I want you to look at the reasoning that this plumland took over the 4th country. To spread the principles of freedom, democracy, and Christianity to quote-unquote ignorant natives. Okay? Back around this time and still today, many Americans feel that other countries, if they're considered third world or they don't have our kind of technology, etc., or our kind of economy, they don't have as much money as us, we consider them to be lesser peoples. And maybe you're not like that, but and I know I'm not, but there are people that view other places like that. And that's how we viewed the Philippines and Hawaii back before the 1900s were around. They were places that were filled with people that were darker than white Europeans. And so, as you know about slavery, anyone at this time, anyone that had a darker skin color than those white Europeans, the darker you were, the more, quote-unquote, ignorant you were, the more you needed to be fixed. I'm not agreeing with that, but the more they thought the more we needed to fix them, we needed to spread our Christianity. That's why you have missionaries. We needed to spread our democracy. We needed to make sure that all the peoples were free, because this freedom, democracy, and Christianity equaled civilization in the eyes of American politicians at the time. If you didn't have these 3 things, you were not a civilized country, and America put it upon themselves to fix that quote-unquote problem. Okay, moving on. This is the last step. Inside the 4th country, draw a peace sign and a cross to show the beliefs being spread to the ignorant natives. Here's my peace sign and my cross. Peace sign, cross. Okay. Now, what I just said before, that we need to spread, that we wanted to spread freedom, democracy, and Christianity. Your freedom and democracy can be this peace sign, because if you have freedom and democracy, generally you're going to have a more peaceful environment than if the case was different. And then Christianity is, of course, represented with a cross. So put that in yours. Okay. Moving on. Turn your paper over to this page right here. And you're going to answer this question. Explain how what you just drew shows an example of what imperialism means. You might have to go to the front of your page again and look at the definition you wrote down for imperialism. But I'm going to give you some ideas, and you don't have to fill out this whole paper. I just want to make sure that when I read your assignment, I've seen that you've thought through the process and that that the idea of imperialism makes sense to you. So you don't have to fill that all up, but just make sure your thoughts are complete. Okay. To give you some ideas, if you don't know what to write, we're going to look back at our map that we drew. Yours is going to look different, but that's okay. So another way you could approach this question is this part right here. Describe the relationship between the first country and the ones after that. So this first country minus Plumland and then these three. How did these countries relate to these three different countries? So before you go on to answer, remember the symbolism here. Plumland, in this case, is going to equal America. The first country with the pineapple, this one, is going to be equivalent to Hawaii. The second country with the ships right here is going to be equivalent to our relationship with Cuba. And the third country with peace and Christianity right here is going to be equivalent to our relationship with the Philippines. And one thing I want you to notice before you go on to write is the order that we colored and drew things. So if you go to the pineapple, what was there first? Did we take it over, meaning did we color it in first and then put the pineapple? Or did we put the pineapple and then color it in? And what we did was we put the pineapple there first before we took over it, before we colored it in. And that represents that the pineapple is a natural resource. So one reason that we want places, that we want countries to be under our control is so that we can use our natural resources. So we saw the pineapple, it was there first, and then we took it over. That's why we colored second. And if you go to the second country we did, we drew in the country first and the harbor. And before we put the ships there, we had to take over the country. So we took it over because of that natural thing that was there, because of that harbor. And then once we took it over, once we colored it in, then we put our ships and our military. Okay? And this last one, what was there first? Did we color it in and then we put our peace sign and our Christianity? Or did we put our peace sign and Christianity first and then we colored it in or took it over? Which one did we do? Now, if you remember back, what we did was we colored it in. We took over the peoples that were in this third place in the Philippines. And then we added on the peace and Christianity, which shows that we took over the people. And then once we had taken over the people, then we spread our ideals among them. Okay, so we have natural resources, we have military reasons, and we have moral reasons. You're going to need to know those three things. Natural resources, military, and moral reasons. Those are the three reasons that America wanted to expand their empire. Those three reasons. And these are three perfect examples of that. Okay, so once you are done, turn it in to me. Okay, you need to answer that question. How you just drew shows an example of what imperialism means, and if you don't want to answer it that way, this question will help you a little better, and that'll give you the same answer. So if you need to go watch that again, feel free. Give it to me when you're done, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.